Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of Brave Briefings, the place where people can share their stories or their tips on how we can live a safer, peaceful life with no harassment, devoid of sexual and gender based violence. And how we do that is we do that by being brave. Are you brave? You brave, Brenda?
I'm pretty darn brave, I have to say. A lot of people have told me that. Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, I'm Lois, your friend for forgiveness and from Walking Without Skin. And today, as she's just said, we have another brave guest, and I'd love to welcome Brenda Adelman to the show. Hi, Brenda.
How are you doing? We go back a ways, so this is really wonderful to be
We
on here
do,
with
and
you
it's
and to
great.
connect again.
It's great to have you here. You've got such a story and you do such good work, and you really are brave. So, before we get on to how or what you do to be brave or what you suggest other people can do to be brave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just going to go right for the story. It's short and it'll explain why I'm on my path and why people say that I'm brave. Uh, So I grew up in Brooklyn with a Jewish wannabe Italian father who taught me how to drive a Cadillac at 6 and how to shoot a gun at 10. A bohemian artist mom, that's her painting, a painting of her back there, who read Shakespeare to me from the time I was 3 years old as a bedtime story and took me traveling with her all over the world. And then in 1995, my father, who I adored, I was definitely daddy's little girl growing up, shot and killed my mother, and within months moved in with and then married my aunt, my mother's sister. But the brave part comes with my deep journey and desire to heal, finding a way to forgive my father while at the same time taking him to court for wrongful death after he got out of jail after only about 2.5 years. And my life has been devoted to sharing how I forgave and also helping people tell their story in a compelling way that uplifts them, activates the audience, and really heals everyone.
It's such a fantastic story. Well, a sad and yet positive story. And you tell it so well. So, everyone, you do go and search it out. We'll put links below this video. And Brenda's got so much to offer. So,
Thank
thank you for
you.
sharing that, Brenda.
Thank you. And I just will let me point out, I have one of the ways I've been sharing my story is through a successful one woman show, stage show all over the world. Just saying it because I have red sequins in the background and I want people to know I am an actor too. So it all makes sense.
And I must tell you, Brenda helped me develop my play, which has never left the page, but she helped
Not
me
yet.
develop my play. Not yet.
Not,
It will leave the
oh, I
page.
bet there'll be pieces of it in your TED.
There are the opening sequences in my TED talk. So,
Yay.
so thank you, Brenda. So let's talk about Brave.
Okay, let's talk about Brave. Um, I would say there are several things in my life. I guess I'll talk about how I found courage and to be brave because I wasn't. I mean, when this happened in my life, it was 1995, and I just was full of despair and didn't want to live and lost my family in that one night. And it was during my loneliest times that I started writing what I had been through onto the pages of my journal. And and it was during that time of night where I wasn't awake, but I wasn't sleeping. And so my truth was coming out instead of stuffing down my anger and stuff like that. And it was through one of the poems I wrote during that time that I had this insight that I needed to tell my story in public versus shrinking and hiding and never telling anybody anything. And I was in a top acting class in Los Angeles, and I asked to do a story exercise they had. And it took every ounce of bravery to get on stage that night. I mean, I was shaking, but there was something deeper inside me that knew I had to tell my story. I was so afraid of judgment. And I got on stage, got a standing ovation. A director wanted to work with me. That's kind of the unfolding of that. But I'm thinking of another time I had to be brave when I took my dad to court for wrongful death and stood up to him, because I was so defined by my identity as my father's daughter. But every time I'm brave like that, it's like whatever is tight inside my body, my throat, my stomach just opens and releases. Um, I had to be brave when I fell in love with a woman for the first time in my life in my 30s and said, am I going to go for it, even though I thought I was straight, or am I going to um, not because of society? And I went for it, and we ended up being married and together for 13 and a half years now. Now we are divorced, but we're friends. Had to be brave when my ex and I decided to adopt our son, who we met in the foster system. Just like, it's like life just keeps giving the lessons, and and I find that as I say yes, I got my life back. I got love. I got money. It's like simple things. Like I remember my ex-wife and I going to Hawaii for a summer. And well, we were supposed to go for 3 weeks. It was kind of like Gilligan's Island. And we ended up there. We went to Hawaii, and I got involved with a forgiveness community there, which was life changing for me. But they gave me, they offered me something pretty amazing, a Hero of Forgiveness award. And I remember having the opportunity to stay and really jump into the community and help out, but we had only planned to be there for three weeks. And then I was like, we have to do it. We didn't know where we were staying, where we were getting the money from. We didn't know, but we're like, yes, do it. And we did it, and ended up being amazing. I remember having a money drawer because I was speaking so much and doing my show. And it's that trust. And the same thing happened with my one woman show. I got invited to do it in England, and I was going to be paid after I went, like based on the ticket sales. And I was like, didn't know where I was going to stay, didn't know anything, but I went within. It's not like I just said yes. I went within all these situations and was like, yes, I'm supposed to do it. So I find when I make these choices based on a deep truth, they usually make no sense at all. And then they end up better than ever. Like with England, I ended up actually a friend from who had grown up in South Africa, was living in, her best friend was then living in England. I ended up staying at her place and having like, and I'm becoming great friends with her. Like everything worked out.
So, how does all of this bravery fit in with stopping harassment and gender based violence? How can you
well,
use your bravery to help that situation?
well, first of all, it's about loving who you want to love and accepting people for who they are. I feel like the way it fits in maybe instead is because of who I am as a person. My focus has been on teaching other people storytelling, right? For the last 2.5 years. So I'm coaching people, and now I'm doing virtual showcases. And so I attract people into my classes who have big stories and who have been unfortunately violated. And I feel like what my work does, because the class I'm doing, Healing Through Story, Tell Yours now, is I attracted, like I had a client in there who, was horribly violated sexually when she was starting from when she was around 4. And because of all the work I've done, master's in spiritual psychology, my own work, I was able to hold a space for her while she was working on her looking at her story and bringing the secret to life in a story where she was taking her power back. And I still remember as she was in the class, because that was in person, her body was aching, all this stuff was coming out, but she was going to therapy, she was going for sound healing, she was doing everything she could in addition to taking my class, which is what I say, do that. I did everything I could to get better. I hired coaches, I went to therapists, I got acupuncture, went on shamanic journey, like I did everything. And the last class, she came in, and right before she was going to perform, and everything had released that she had been holding on for 50 years all this stuff and tension in her body because she got to take back her power on stage and tell the story her way and be heard. So I would say that that's how my work probably fits into this. Just because of who I am, I give people the right to stop hiding secrets. Secrets are what cause more problems or conflict or keeps us in self-doubt and self-loathing when we haven't done anything wrong, you know?
So give me one tip on how we can stop that harassment and that toxic masculinity.
Here's something that's going to sound counterintuitive. It's not about hating them. It's about knowing that's not for me. That's not what I want. God knows I've been in a year of, hating on certain people in the world that I feel are representing toxic masculinity. But what I learned through that is that anger just hurts me. It really does come back on me. So it's like sending love, really, it's like sending love to your enemy, but at the same time, so important. And first of all, you don't have to say, I love you. It's like energetically noticing where you're upset, where you're angry. Oftentimes we don't have any power over the other person. So that's an illusion. Although if you're an activist, fantastic. But I would say, and this is stuff I did with my father, like somehow tap into the person, not the personality, the essence of the person that ended up growing up to be this toxic person, sending love to them, setting a very healthy boundary. If there's someone in your life, like I took my dad to court for wrongful death, which made him actually take off, setting a very healthy boundary, and then focusing on self-love, self-honor, and spending time with people who are kind and compassionate and men who have beautiful, kind energy. That's what I would say in that
Fabulous.
case.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow. So much in there. We'll have to unpack all of those points. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember that you too can be brave. Let's work together to stop the scourge, to stop the silent pandemic that's so often not spoken about. Go out and tell your story. That's part of how we can make it not so silent anymore. And do contact Brenda. As I say, her details are below, or you can contact me, Lois, at Walking Without Skin. So do join us, be bold, be brave, and fly free. Thank you very much for joining us, Brenda. Go well.
Thank you.
Bye.